and the Black Country. Throughout the morning as well, I've been asking you for your predictions for 2012, and we've had some very entertaining ones, some serious ones as well. The reason I've been doing that is because I'm joined this morning by a very special guest, the Tamworth-based astrologer and author Alison Chester-Lambert. Good morning and Happy New Year.
Good morning and Happy New Year to you.
Well, first of all, I have to ask you, how do you become an astrologer? And what's the difference between an astrologer and an astronomer straight away? Because that must be the thing that you get, people get confused about.
They do, yes. It takes about 5 years to become an astrologer. First of all, you have to understand some astronomy, because unless you understand where the planets are in the sky and how the Earth turns and its relationship to the sun, then you can't get your head around how to get meaning from that. And basically the difference between the two is that an astronomer observes the planets and the cosmos and the Earth's motion around the sun, and he just views that and says, that's kind of nice, but it has no meaning. And an astrologer looks at that and says, all this has meaning because we live in a joined-up cosmos, and it's like a living, breathing entity, and there's lots of waves of energy that go between the planets and us, and they influence us in some way, and we are part of this cosmos, and we are influenced by it, so we derive meaning from it.
Okay, so first of all, then, what about these ones in the newspaper when somebody in 3 lines tells everybody who's a Taurus or an Aries or a Scorpio what sort of day they're going to have?
You kind of have to take that like looking at the agony aunt. So if you wrote a letter to Claire Rayner and you said, my boyfriend's left me, and then you wrote a letter to another of the agony aunts, you'd get kind of 2 different answers, wouldn't you? So when astrologers look at the planets and decide that everybody who is an Aries or a Pisces is going to be influenced in a certain way, first of all, they're making that assessment because they have their own opinion in the same way that the agony aunts have. But also, they're doing it in such a broad way as it will generalise to a 1/12 of the population. But in actual fact, the work I do, more serious work, is I take a person's their date of birth and I look at the position of all the planets at the moment of their birth, and I do a personalised horoscope, which is much more in-depth and stunningly accurate and goes way into that person about I'm fully aware of everything about them and their future when I do a personal one. When I write the horoscopes, it's just more general.
Okay, because I read one in a woman's magazine that told me, in the dentist waiting room, picked up a woman's magazine, told me I was going to get pregnant. So how about that? That'd have been
no,
Happy
it
New
didn't.
Year, wouldn't it? So
That's not true.
I know you're going to be talking about me a little bit later on, because we'll give you just some basic information
I've done some
about
stuff
me.
on you, yeah.
But 2011, obviously, extremely eventful year on so many levels. Is 2012 going to be as eventful as well, do you think?
Yes, it is. I think actually 2012 is important on 3 levels. First of all, it's about the bogus speculation about the end of the world and the end of the Mayan calendar, and all those stories about an apocalypse, which really developed in the 60s.
Do we get that every year? I remember people always seem to think the world's going to end on a particular date every year, don't they?
Well, we had the end of the millennium, didn't we? So that was going to end then because the computers were all going to explode.
Right, yeah.
That's the one, yeah. We can talk a bit more about the Mayan calendar in a bit if you like, but it's been important up till now because of all the hype around this new age thing about, it's all going to end. In astrology, it's important for me because it is the middle year in an 8-year period that began in 2008 and finishes in 2016. And this whole 8-year period is about the need to make urgent and extreme change because things are bad. We've been asleep on the Titanic for 2 decades and we've got ourselves into a mess and we have to get out of this mess. So it's important for me for that reason.
You sound like David Cameron.
I know. Do you know, I was listening to the news there and I thought, oh my God, they're all going to think I'm saying this because David Cameron said it. But actually, I prefer to think he's been reading my work. And I think he's getting it right now. Well done, David, for following me. Thank you. So it's on my Facebook.
So we're slap bang in the middle of quite a big cycle then. So already, in from a layman, from what you've already told me, it's going to be a case of it still could get worse before it gets better.
Yeah, but there is some positive stuff, because the last thing that 2012 is about, it's about the Olympics, and I understand that this will give a great deal of power of nation to the UK, and I think the UK will get a great boost from it. But for the spiritual people and New Agers, it's also about a message of hope and spiritual spiritual ideals of love and compassion and social change. And I think there is such a growing, huge movement towards this that I think that can certainly be an emergence. We're also looking at scientific breakthroughs and radical changes in the way we think about things.
Oh, Brucey to quit Strictly Come Dancing. Can you see that one happening?
Well, yeah. I'm surprised he's still there.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you about the royal family in a moment. But before the traffic and travel and the weather, you said that we're halfway through an 8-year cycle, and it's a tough time for the world, and we have to change the way our attitudes. So what did you mean by that?
Of being asleep aboard the Titanic. Well, for instance, we have to manufacture or grow enough food in the next 50 years. In the next 50 years, we have to grow as much food as we grew in the last 10,000. Now, that's a sobering statistic, but that's an actual statistic, because the population is growing so fast that we're acting like we've got another planet tucked away somewhere, and we've got to kind of like wake up to the fact that we've got this huge population and things are running out. We've got a depletion of resources. We're nearly out of copper. The water supplies is going to be difficult. The Western capitalist system is technically bankrupt. We've got the imminent collapse of the euro. We've been over-consuming. Everything is too disposable.
So what's going to happen, do you think?
We have to make changes. It's as simple as that. Everybody will have to accept. It's like David Cameron, but it really is as simple as we've got to make changes. We've got to accept less. People have got to accept that they can't have the latest must-have fashion item immediately and then dispose of it 6 months later.
I noticed you didn't look at me when you said that. Did you? The way I'm dressed. Good job it's not telly, isn't it, eh? So can I have some, before we go on to, because I know you've had just a little bit of information about me and what's in store for me. Big events then of 2012, big things that you could see happening.
The summer will be a time of great turmoil and challenge. I think the euro will have to go. I think we'll see the end of major banking and financial edifices, but it will be for the best in the end, because at the end of all this, by the time we get to 2016, we will be in a better place. But we do have to go through extreme change.
Yes, so you think all this, and you've come up with this opinion from the studying that you've done with the planets.
I'm taking a master's degree in cultural astronomy and astrology. I'm quite well regarded in the industry. So, I mean, this isn't sort of idle speculation. This is proper, thorough research.
Okay, so events of predictions of things which may or may not happen in 2012.
Scientific breakthroughs, collapse of the euro, big collapse of banking. As I said, financial institutions will have to go. There'll have to be a big shake-up. People will have to accept less. And we'll have to have a major breakthrough in our spiritual beliefs as well. In actual fact, the New Age movement has great ideals about love and compassion and spiritual concerns and planetary concerns, which are appropriate for the future. And I think we'll see a big uprising in these. There's a few people who've targeted things like the elite 1%. They want to see things fairer. And they want to see less greed in the world and corruption. Okay. And I think that it can emerge, because as we get into things that are worse and worse, we'll suddenly realise we've got to change and find a better way.